Hello guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel today. If you are new here, you're welcome. If you're returning, thank you so much for always coming back. Thank you so much. And if you've been watching me for a longer time now and you've not subscribed, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. So today I've got questions like what's the difference between you doing your master's and doctorate? Like, it's still the same? Is it the same thing? Like, what is the difference between doing your master's and PhD? Like, really? So today's video is I'm going to be telling you some things about the difference between doing your master's and doing a PhD studies in Sweden. I'm going to be telling you today. So if this video is for you, please wait to the end, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. So yes, the first difference, obvious difference, is no tuition. Like, as a PhD student, it's not like there's no tuition. You don't have to pay tuition. As far as I know, like, with most PhD students that I've actually network with or that I've spoken to, everyone it's not tuition. But then I don't know, maybe I read it somewhere sometimes about there are some certain PhD positions or PhD studies that requires you to pay tuition. But I'm not sure of this information. But then all PhD students that I've seen is without tuition, and of course no scholarship. But then there are some PhD positions that are funded with scholarships, right, in Sweden, but they are not, all these ones are not rare. Scholarship, tuition, I don't think there's tuition for PhD, right? But for scholarship, I know that I've read about a couple of people who are under scholarship for PhD studies. But then for a PhD, so they're like normal, like the highest population of PhD students in Sweden are working. Like I've said, it's 1 million and 1 million times on this channel. I'm exaggerating, right? Yeah. PhD students don't pay tuition. They are not on some are on scholarship, but then it's like a job. It's a job. Maybe we should stop calling it PhD safe. Maybe we should just say you're a researcher, like you're researching, like you're working, right? You're working, but the kind of work you're doing is you're doing research and you're teaching, right? You're teaching students and maybe doing some administrative duties. So yeah, that's like the first point that I have. And then the second point that I have is resident permit. Like, if a master student resident permit does not count towards your PR, but a PhD student resident permit counts towards your PR. When I mean PR, is permanent residence. Now, this is how it works. For migration vacates, all PhD students are students to them. Like, if you're a PhD, you are a student to them, so they handle your case as a student. But then every other parastatals, like, they recognize PhD students as workers. So, but when you're doing your application, you do application for students for a PhD. But then this is where the difference is. For a PhD resident permit, your stay in Sweden counts towards your permanent residence. But for a master student, your residence does not count towards a permanent residence. So that's just like the difference between the PhD resident permit and the master's resident permit. And if you look at this resident permit, they look the same, like they are the same, but the functions are different. So that's like that. Then the next one is, yeah, for a master's student, you are not entitled to parental benefits. If you're still a student and you're still under your student permit as a master student, you are not entitled to parental benefits if something like if you give birth, and if when maybe all these kind of benefits you're not entitled to, except if you're a student that have converted your student permit to a work permit. That is when, because now you're no longer under the student status, you're under the work permit status, that you can get a parental benefit. But with your student status, you can't. But in the PhD student scenario, you are entitled to a parental benefit. Like I already explained, that it's only migrations that recognizes PhD student as a student, but every other parastatal recognizes them as workers because they are being treated. They do everything every worker do. So it's just that the permit to student is the same. So that's like that with the benefits. Then yeah, so I also wrote that as a PhD student you're working. I said that, and as a master student you are basically just going to school, and your schedules are different to each other. For master student, all you do is go to class, take lectures, take assignment, and go back to your house, do your assignment and go back to your house. But then in a PhD studies, like in a PhD student schedule, it's different. We go to work like we are working, and we do meetings, you do normal work, right? And we do research, like you have a lot of research, you have to do interviews with people, you have to make research of, depending on the kind of research that you're working on. Some people it's laboratory, they have to be in the lab almost every time doing experiments and all. And if it's people that are doing, like, you need to speak with decision makers. When I mean decision makers, like politicians or maybe people in big governmental administrations, like PhD students just have to go to the field, like to get data, like you collect data for your research and all, and then as a PhD student you publish papers. It's a very age different, like you have to publish papers either in journals or either in conferences. Then as a PhD student you go for conferences, like that's your routine, like you have to go for conferences. So that's like, but for a master student all that is not your concern. But for a PhD student, because now it's just like they're saying, like the way they used to see PhD is just like, for example, you're applying to for a driver's license, for example. So the process of you going to classes for your driving school and everything, just for you to acquire your driver's license, is the same thing for a PhD student. Like your PhD, yes, is you trying to acquire a how do I put it, a license, yeah, to acquire a license to carry out research, to publish papers. So once you are done with PhD, now you can, or doing your PhD, you learn how to publish papers, you learn how to write, academic writing, research skills, a lot of skills that you're going to gain during your PhD. So it's just like you obtain a license to publish papers and to do every other thing that researchers do. So that's the difference. Then another thing is, yeah, as a PhD student, you have access to every building in the school, like every building, like you have, because even though when you see your card, like your school card and every other worker's card are the same, student card is the same with the same logo, the same thing, but the functions are kind of different. Like where I can access, a student cannot access. Like for example, I can access in Lynn Shopping, we have like 4 campuses, but 2 major campus, which is like in my university we have 2 major campuses, one in Lynn Shopping and another campus in like 40 minutes to the main campus. Now I can use my card in every of the campuses in Lane Shopping. Like I can go anywhere to do anything. I can go anywhere to take fruit. Like there's always like fruit are always provided for workers, so you can take fruit. So if I go anywhere, I can actually have access to those all those rooms that students don't have access to. And then even in the library, there's some rooms that students don't have access to. But as a worker, I can just book the room from my work mail, and in fact I can even go there. Once I tap with my card, it gives me access. So you literally have access to every building in the school, which a master student don't have. Yeah, so yes, another thing with PhD students is you have access to all school resources, like everything. Like they try to make, yeah, master students are good, but for a PhD student, you are provided with a lot of things, like your laptops, your phone, anything you need that can help you with your research is going to be provided. But for a master student, it's not like that. You're just a student, right? But then for PhD, you're working and then you're also doing your research, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the kind of little benefit. This are the little differences amongst a PhD student and a master student. Another thing is, as a PhD student, I've said this countless of time, like you are being paid, like they pay you in the government scale, like you're under the government administrations. They pay pension for you. A lot of benefits. I have to say a lot of, because I don't know this benefits in my head. Like, it's a lot of benefit, like insurances and all. So yeah, so that's like the basic difference between. But the obvious difference is the fact that your stay in Sweden as a PhD student counts towards your PR. Yeah, so I've come to the end of today's video. If you have any questions, please you can put it in the comment section. Please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. If you need me to do any video, you can put it in the comment section. Say, oh, I want you to do a video about this and this, and I will come up with a video. Thank you so much. This is where I will do the recording, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.